The island Sarapos was under the rule of Polydectes. Unlike his brother Dictys, Polydectes was a man of power. One day, as he moved through the island, his eyes fell upon a woman, not of the island, not like the others. It was Danae, and from that moment, his interest began. By the time Perseus entered his youth, Danae was still strikingly beautiful. Time had not taken it from her. There was a dignity in her presence, as if she was carrying royal vibrancy. At first, it was a simple interest. Then it became admiration, and soon desire. He approached her, spoke with courtesy, offered comfort, protection, and a life far from hardship. He asked for her hand in marriage. Danae refused, gently, respectfully. But Polydectes was not a man accustomed to refusal. He returned again and again, each time with the same request. At last, Danae gave him an answer in affirmative. She told him, "I will marry you only if you accept my son as well." It was a mother's simple demand, but for Polydectes, it was unacceptable.
To accept Perseus meant acknowledging him, a boy with no known father, no lineage. A king could not openly embrace such a child, not without diminishing his own standing. Yet, he wanted Danae. Now, between his desire and accomplishment, was standing a boy, Perseus. That was the problem. Polydectes had made his decision. Perseus had to be removed, not by force, but in a way that no one would question. So he devised a plan, one that would appear harmless. A great feast was announced. Messengers were sent across the island. Nobles were invited. Perseus was invited too. It was said that the king intended to marry, and that each guest must bring him a fine offering. The hall was filled with men carrying treasures, gold, silver, horses of rare breed, each gift a symbol of loyalty and wealth. Among them stood Perseus, young, strong, but unprepared for the games of kings.
He had nothing to offer. No riches, no grand possessions. Polydectes saw this and smiled, because this exact moment was what he had been waiting for. He turned to Perseus, his voice calm, almost casual. "And you, Perseus? What gift have you brought for your king?" The room grew quiet. All eyes turned. Perseus hesitated. "I have nothing worthy of a king," he said. A murmur passed through the hall. Soft laughter. Whispers. He straightened. At that moment, Perseus made a decision. He met the king's gaze and said, "Name it. Whatever you ask, I will bring it." Polydectes did not rush. He let the silence settle. Then he spoke. "I would like to have the head of Medusa, but there's no way that I'm going to put you in such danger. Pay no heed to the laughter or whispers. Enjoy the feast." Medusa the Gorgon. Her gaze turned men to stone. No warrior had faced her and returned. But pride, youth, and courage often walk on the wrong path. Perseus nodded. "Then Medusa's head is what I will bring." He said those words without realizing that it was a death sentence. Polydectes knew Perseus would never return. And without Perseus, there would be nothing left standing between him and Danae. A journey had begun. Perseus stood at the edge of the shore, looking out at the endless sea, the same sea that had once tried to take his life. Behind him lay the only home he had ever known. Ahead of him, death. He did not yet know how he would succeed, did not know where to begin. Perseus had no map, no idea where Medusa could even be found. For days, he wandered across unfamiliar lands, searching for answers. Mountains rose before him. Forests swallowed the roads. The world seemed larger now than he had ever imagined. And with each passing step, the task before him felt more impossible. One evening, as the sun disappeared beneath the horizon, a voice spoke behind him. "You walk toward death with remarkable determination." Perseus turned instantly. Standing before him was a traveler,
clothed in pale light, calm-eyed and impossibly composed. Perseus became aware of something strange. This was no ordinary man. This was Hermes, messenger of the gods. Many stronger than you have tried. All of them failed. Hermes then offered Perseus a curved blade, sharp enough to cut through bronze, a weapon forged not for battle, but for execution.
Before Perseus could speak, another presence emerged from the shadows beside him, silent, watchful. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. "You cannot defeat Medusa through strength alone," she said. "You must face her differently." Athena raised her hand, and in it appeared a shield. Its surface shone like still water, bright, flawless, perfectly polished. "Do not look directly at Medusa," Athena warned. "Watch her reflection instead. Only then will you survive." Hermes informed Perseus that the nymphs guarded the final treasures he would need. Hermes had become his guide, leading him through paths no ordinary traveler could have found. At last, his path brought him to a place unlike anything he had seen before, the land of the nymphs. The nymphs lived in endless celebrations. Flutes and lyres played in gentle harmony, and beneath the music, graceful maidens danced among the gardens as though the world itself had forgotten sorrow. But when Perseus entered, everything stopped. The music faded, dancers grew still. The nymphs gathered around him cautiously, because never before had a mortal man entered their sacred land. Perseus told them everything: the cruelty of Polydectes, the danger surrounding his mother. The nymphs welcomed him as an honored guest. From them, he received 3 gifts unlike anything crafted by mortal hands: winged sandals that could carry him across the sky, a silver helm that granted invisibility, and a sacred satchel, strong enough to contain the severed head of Medusa herself. Perseus accepted the gifts. Now, at last, Perseus stood prepared. But his journey was not over.
Statues stood scattered across the valley, warriors clutching broken swords, kings trapped forever in expressions of terror. Not carved, transformed. Every one of them had looked upon the face of the Gorgon. Into this land came Perseus, armed with gifts no ordinary man possessed. Winged sandals carried him silently across the dark cliffs. At his side hung the curved blade gifted by Hermes, and upon his arm rested the polished shield of Athena, smooth as still water. At last, he arrived at the ruins of an ancient temple buried beneath black stone cliffs, the lair of the Gorgon. Athena's warning echoed in his mind. Do not look directly at her. Carefully, he raised Athena's shield before him and stared only at its reflection. Then he saw them. Perseus slowed his breathing. Even in reflection, Medusa was terrifying.
Perseus was lucky enough to find Medusa sleeping among the ruins. Perseus stepped carefully, slowly, getting closer. Then suddenly, the Gorgon lifted its head. It sensed him. Medusa's eyes began to open. A ripple of hissing spread through the chamber. Perseus had no more time. With a sharp breath, he lunged forward. Using only the reflection in the shield to guide his strike, he raised the divine blade high and brought it down with all his strength. The cavern exploded with sound. A terrible scream tore through the darkness as the blade severed Medusa's head. The serpents writhed violently. Black blood struck the stone floor, and the entire cavern seemed to shake with rage. There were 2 Gorgons nearby, the sisters of Medusa. At once, the other Gorgons awoke. Their shrieks echoed like something inhuman. They searched wildly through the darkness. He seized the severed head and placed it into the sacred satchel gifted by the nymphs. Then he pulled the silver helm of darkness over himself and vanished.
The moment Medusa's head was severed, something miraculous happened.
From the blood of the dying Gorgon burst a magnificent white horse with enormous wings. Pegasus inherited divine beauty and supernatural power. The child of Poseidon and Medusa, conceived before her death. The newborn Pegasus spread his magnificent white wings, soared into the sky. The winds roared beneath him. For the very first time, he flew, rising above the horror of Medusa's death. Higher than mountains, he became a symbol of freedom, born from suffering. But below, chaos erupted. The immortal Gorgon sisters awoke to Medusa's final scream. They saw their sister's headless body lying upon the stone. The two Gorgons charged through the darkness, claws tearing through stone. Then, Pegasus descended from the sky. The divine horse landed before Perseus. The young hero stood frozen in awe. Perseus quickly mounted Pegasus, and with a thunderous beat of his wings, Pegasus launched into the sky, carrying Perseus upon his back.
Cassiopeia possessed great beauty, and over time, her pride grew into arrogance. She would stand before her court draped in jewels and royal silk, boasting not only of her own beauty, but of her daughters as well. Though her daughter, Andromeda, truly was beautiful, but beauty often invites disaster. One day, Cassiopeia declared that she and Andromeda were more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymphs beloved by the gods themselves. It was not merely pride, it was an insult to the sea. The Nereids carried the insult to Poseidon, and the sea god's wrath was terrible. Without warning, storms descended upon the kingdom. Massive waves crashed against the shores. Ships were torn apart like leaves in a storm. Then something worse came. A sea monster, sent by Poseidon himself. The creature emerged from the depths like a nightmare, vast, scaled, and unstoppable. It destroyed everything in its path, dragging the kingdom into fear and chaos. The people begged their king for salvation. Desperate, King Cepheus sought guidance from the oracle, but the answer he received was horrifying. The gods demanded a sacrifice. To save the kingdom, the princess had to be chained to the rocks beside the sea and offered to the monster.
Fear spread through the kingdom like wildfire. At first, they waited for the king to act, but he could not, because Andromeda was not simply a princess, she was his daughter. He ordered stronger defenses along the coast, sent soldiers to hunt the beast, offered treasures, but nothing worked. The monster kept coming, but when the prophecy spread across the kingdom, panic consumed the people, and anger became rebellion. The people gathered outside the palace gates in massive crowds, shouting into the storm-filled night, "Save the kingdom! Give the gods what they demand!" Andromeda saw the torment in her father's eyes. If my death will save them, then let it end with me. The day of the sacrifice arrived beneath a sky of black clouds and cold rain. The people gathered along the cliffs in fearful silence, in desperate hope that one innocent life might save thousands more. And through the crowd walked Andromeda. As Andromeda was bound to the stone, the crowd fell completely silent. Then suddenly, the sea began to churn violently. Waves rose unnaturally high. Something enormous was approaching from beneath the water. People began screaming and retreating up the cliffs. The monster was coming. Andromeda, chained helplessly against the rocks, waiting for death to rise from the sea. She lifted her eyes toward the storm-dark horizon. Far above the ocean, another figure, crossing the sky with a flying horse.
A woman chained to a jagged rock beside the sea. She did not scream for help. She simply stared toward the horizon. Perseus landed beside her. Then he noticed the crowds gathered far above the cliffs, soldiers, citizens, even a king and queen watching, waiting for their princess to die. The beast emerged slowly from the depths. He drew his sword and rose into the sky,
Using the winged sandals gifted by the nymphs, the creature lunged upward. Its breath smelled of salt and blood. He struck, but the blade barely pierced its scales. He attacked again from above, driving his sword into the creature's neck. Dark blood poured into the ocean. The beast twisted violently, shattering stone around Andromeda. His sword slipped from his hand, and for the first time since facing Medusa, he felt fear. The fear of failing. And then, his hand touched the cloth at his side, Medusa's head. Even now, he could feel its terrible power pulsing beneath the fabric.
The creature opened its jaws again, ready to tear him apart. He ripped away the cloth covering the Gorgon's face, then stretched out his arm and held Medusa's head directly before the beast. Everything stopped. The roar died in the monster's throat. Its eyes widened. Its massive body froze mid-step. Slowly, the scales hardened into stone. Cracks spread across its body like frost across ice. The people on the cliffs stared in disbelief. Even the king himself could not speak.
Perseus stepped forward, broke the chains binding Andromeda's wrists, and freed her. King Cepheus hurried down from the cliffs, overcome with gratitude. He embraced his daughter. Then he turned toward Perseus. "You have saved my kingdom," the king said, "and you have saved my child." Perseus fell in love with Andromeda in the moment he saw her. He seized the opportunity and asked her hand in marriage. Overcome with gratitude, the king gave his consent. For the first time in many days, the kingdom breathed freely again. That night, the palace was filled with celebration. Torches illuminated massive halls of marble and gold. Musicians played. Wine flowed endlessly. As the feast continued, the great doors of the hall suddenly burst open. Phineus entered with armed men behind him. The music stopped instantly. His face burned with humiliation and rage. He pointed toward Perseus. "Andromeda was promised to me!" he shouted. "You stole what belongs to another!"
Phineus was the man who had once been promised Andromeda's hand in marriage. During the sacrifice, he had disappeared. Now, with the danger gone, he returned to claim the reward he had not earned. When he saw Andromeda standing beside Perseus, jealousy consumed him. Soldiers drew swords. Guests fled from the hall. The celebration descended into chaos. Within moments, the palace became a battlefield. Perseus fought fiercely, but Phineus and his men were too many. His grip tightened around the satchel carrying the head of Medusa. He could end the battle instantly, turn the hall into a graveyard of stone. Then, suddenly, amidst the chaos, Perseus saw Andromeda. He realized the truth. He could survive this fight, but Andromeda might not. With sudden urgency, Perseus fought his way toward her instead. Pegasus descended through the storm-dark sky on the palace balcony. Without hesitation, Perseus pulled Andromeda onto Pegasus's back. Phineus screamed in fury from within the hall, and then Pegasus leapt into the sky. The palace rapidly disappeared beneath them as they soared above the coastline and out across the dark sea.
The moment Perseus arrived, the island felt wrong. The people of the island barely recognized him. Their small home stood abandoned, empty. Perseus searched everywhere. People avoided his gaze. Whenever he spoke the name of Danae, fear appeared in their eyes. Others whispered only one warning: leave the island while you still can. Then, suddenly, a small barefoot boy appeared from behind the narrow streets. "If you want the truth," the child whispered, "go to the old ruined temple outside the city." "Who are you?" Perseus asked. But when he turned fully, the boy was gone, as though he had vanished into the wind itself. As evening descended, Perseus and Andromeda reached the ruined temple. Inside the darkness of the ruined temple, someone was waiting. An old man, exhausted, dressed in worn and tattered clothing. Then the old man lifted his head with relief. Perseus rushed toward him in shock. "Dictys, what happened?" The man before him looked nothing like the strong fisherman he remembered. Then Dictys finally revealed the truth. After Perseus had departed in search of Medusa, Polydectes demanded that Danae marry him. By that time, Danae found out how meticulously he sent her son to death, so she refused his proposal. One night, Polydectes sent soldiers to seize her by force. She was dragged from her home screaming, while the people of Sarapos watched. No one intervened. No one dared. I escaped before the king's men found me. Since then, I have hidden here, among the ruins. I stayed alive only to tell you the truth.
because no one else will dare to speak. From that night onward, Danae disappeared into the royal palace.
Polydectes forced himself upon her again and again, using power where he could never earn love. He had no idea about the arrival of Perseus. Danae knew that Perseus would return someday and avenge her. That night, there was a feast at the palace. Polydectes was celebrating. That evening, the palace of Polydectes overflowed once again with music and celebration. The king sat laughing among his nobles, completely unaware of the consequences of his crimes. They all laughed when the king laughed, drank when he drank. Then, suddenly, the great doors of the hall opened. The music stopped. At the entrance stood a lone figure, cloaked in darkness. First, Polydectes only stared in confusion. Then, recognition slowly crept across his face. Perseus? Slowly, he removed the satchel from his side. "What is that?" he demanded. Perseus looked directly at him. "The gift you asked for." Polydectes' confidence finally began to crack. Perseus opened the satchel and revealed the head of Medusa. Polydectes looked upon the face of Medusa, and instantly his body hardened into stone. The expression of horror remained forever frozen upon his face. Terror exploded through the hall. Some tried to flee, others froze where they stood, but it was already too late. One by one, the nobles beside him suffered the same fate. When it was over, the hall stood completely still, a hall of statues beneath flickering torchlight. Perseus closed the satchel once more, the curse hidden again within darkness. Vengeance had been achieved, yet peace still felt very far away. Then he rescued his mother. Later, Perseus placed Dictys upon the throne of Sarapos. He left the island with his mother Danae and wife Andromeda. For years, Acrisius believed he had escaped fate, but whispers began reaching Argos. Stories of a young hero, the slayer of Medusa, the rider of Pegasus, the man who defeated Sea Beast and turned Polydectes into stone. Terrified, the king abandoned Argos entirely. He fled his own kingdom. Meanwhile, Perseus journeyed across Greece with Andromeda beside him as one of the greatest heroes of the age. One day, Perseus arrived at a great athletic festival. Kings, warriors, and champions had gathered there from across the Greek to compete before cheering crowds. Among the contests was discus throwing, a test of strength and precision. Perseus entered proudly. The crowd roared as the famous hero stepped forward into the arena. Sunlight gleamed across the polished bronze discus in his hand. Far away, among the spectators, stood an old man, watching silently, a traveler. Perseus hurled the discus into the sky with tremendous force. It soared powerfully across the arena. Suddenly, the wind shifted. The discus veered violently, straight into the crowd. A sickening impact echoed through the arena. People screamed. The old man collapsed instantly to the ground. When Perseus approached, the blood drained from his face. It was Acrisius, his grandfather. He had unknowingly arrived at the same place. The prophecy had finally come true, not through intention, but through an accident. According to law and blood, the throne of Argos now belonged to Perseus. He had become the rightful king, but overcome with grief and guilt, he considered himself unworthy to rule the kingdom of Argos. Perseus refused to enter the city. He exchanged kingdoms with Megapenthes, ruler of tyrants, and took the less prestigious land. He gave away the head of Medusa to the goddess Athena. Unlike many kings, Perseus did not seek power through cruelty. Together with Andromeda, Perseus ruled wisely and brought prosperity to his people. And thus, the great journey of Perseus came full circle.